friends, it's Gwen. Today I want to talk to you about Losing Hope by Colleen Hoover. Earlier this month I read Hopeless by Colleen Hoover and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars, and this is told from Sky's perspective and this is told from Holder's perspective, so you kind of get both sides to the story in a completely different way. I rated Hopeless 5 stars. It is a little controversial. Some people think there is slut shaming in there, and they use terms like slut and the boyfriend being whipped, and they think that the relationship isn't very healthy, but I loved it. I gave it 5 stars, and if you enjoyed Hopeless, I highly recommend you pick up Losing Hope. Again, this story is told from Holder's point of view, and it's the first time in a long time I've been inside a guy's head, and it's a very interesting perspective and point of view because you are in the guy's head and you learn a little bit more about Holder and his twin sister and his friend Daniel. And Daniel, his friend, is absolutely hilarious. Some of the texts that they send back and forth, hilarious. Daniel has this thing where he nicknames everybody, and it is just, I don't know. I had to show my fiance because it was just so funny. So if you don't know anything about this, you really have to kind of start with Hopeless and the synopsis of this book. And this book is about Sky going to public school for her senior year in high school for the first time. She runs into Holder, and it kind of gives her these memories of her troubled past that she really doesn't remember a lot about. And their interaction is intense and, you know, enigmatic, and it's just really interesting. I really enjoyed this, but it's basically about her troubled past, their relationship, and navigating high school for the first time without her best friend, who was supposed to be there but ends up going away. So yeah, so that's what the first one's about, and then the second one is pretty much about the same thing. It follows the main plot line that Hopeless did, but in this one it also deals with Holder's sister's death, which you also find out about in the first book, but this one it actually starts before she died and then how that all went down, and he really deals with everything that he dealt with in the first book. But in this one, he deals with his sister's death, and this book goes a little bit further than the first book does. It also is a little bit shorter, so there are some scenes that are skipped that really aren't important with Holder and his perspective. The characters in this book are pretty much the same, except for it's kind of the flip side. You get more Holder, you get more about his sister, you get more of his family dynamics than her family dynamics, and you get his best friend opposed to her best friend, and I really enjoyed that. It took me a while to actually get into his head and change point of views in my head, but once I did, it was really great. There were some scenes that were repeated, so I just immediately recognized those, and the dialogue and the tension and all the feels that were happening in that particular conversation, so I was able to pick up on that. And then there were, of course, different scenes, and you were always hearing how he was feeling. Like in this one, you're always hearing when they were having conversations, you were hearing how she was feeling, and this one you're hearing how he's feeling, and I was just cheering him right along, like, yes, I was hoping you were saying that, or really, you were saying that? So it was just really interesting to be in his head for once. As far as the setting, it's pretty much the same. High school, his house, you know, just it's basically the same. As far as the conflict in this book, you're dealing with his sister's death along with the main conflict in this book, following around Sky and the meeting and how they're connected and how the relationship progresses, and dealing with Sky's troubled past and his troubled past and learning things that he didn't know about his childhood, and kind of his family dynamics, what happened with his family, his sister and his mother and his father, and you kind of get that in this book as well. And the one thing that really made this fresh and exciting and not as repetitive as it could have been is after his sister dies, he finds a notebook in his sister's room, and he takes that notebook and starts writing her letters about how pissed off he is, about how his day went, and so forth. It kind of becomes a diary to him, but he does so in the form of letters to his dead sister, and I found them really honest, and I felt like you are going to have those range of emotions that he expressed in his letters to his sister. And it was just a good breakup of the story when it could have gotten monotonous. It kept it fresh and exciting and fun and interesting. And it just delved deeper and deeper into his character and how he was feeling and the things that he was dealing with. And I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the ending of this. It was kind of like towards the end of Hopeless, like the ending towards here. It was just, it just made me like have all the feels. It had nothing to do with Skyholder, but it had to do with just kind of him coming to term with things and making that step and making that choice to do what he did. And it's giving me goosebumps talking about it, and I just loved it. I loved it, loved it, loved it. I couldn't imagine it any other way. It really opened up a whole new world about things that happened, what could have happened, and how things were dealt with, and how you're hoping that they were dealt with differently. I know it's very vague, but you just have to read the book. And then another thing that I enjoyed about this book is it didn't end where Hopeless ended. It kept going. And for that reason, you felt like you got the epilogue that you wanted in the first one. And I really enjoyed it, and I was super happy with how it ended. So I highly recommend that you pick up this book. If you enjoyed this, then you'll enjoy this. But if you didn't like this, then you're probably not going to like this, because it's basically the same story. It does have a little bit of extras in there, but then there's some things that are missing. It does still have the slut, and it does still have the whipped, and it does still have the, the crazy interaction between the two when they meet, but you're getting from his point of view, so you're kind of understanding a little bit more. It makes things a little bit clearer. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this book. I was going to give it 4 stars, but you know what? I loved it. The ending sealed the deal for me. 5 stars. Absolutely enjoyed. But yeah, so I highly recommend this book if you liked the first one. Again, if you didn't enjoy the first one, you're probably going to want to skip this one too. But I loved it. That's all I really wanted to talk to you about today. I hope you've enjoyed this quick review. And yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye!